August 17th, 1938. West 126th Street, Harlem. A uniformed cop slapped Bumpy Johnson's sister in public. No fists, no retaliation. Just silence. 72 hours later, an entire police system bent without a single threat. This wasn't revenge or pride, it was strategy. One man let time do the violence. So how did a single slap rewrite Harlem's rules? To understand that outcome, the story goes back to where it truly began. August 17th, 1938. West 126th Street at 3:15 in the afternoon, heat turning the asphalt soft enough to leave boot prints. Mabel Johnson, 23 years old, Bumpy Johnson's younger sister, walked home carrying groceries when Officer Patrick Callahan decided today was a good day to remind a black woman what a badge meant in Harlem. Callahan stepped into her path close enough she could smell the coffee on his breath. "Where the hell you think you're going?" Not a question. A challenge. Mabel kept her eyes down. "Home, officer. Just going home." She tried to move around him. Callahan shifted, blocked her again. "Look at me when I talk to you. Your kind need to learn some goddamn respect." His hand came up fast, caught her across the face with enough force that her head snapped sideways and the grocery bag hit the pavement. Oranges scattered into the gutter. A jar of grape preserves exploded against the curb, purple syrup spreading like a wound across the concrete. The sound cracked through the street, sharp enough to stop every conversation within 50 feet. 30 people watched. The barber, the domino players, the women on the stoop, the old man at the window with his coffee. Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. Mabel stood there with a red handprint blooming on her cheek, waiting for Callahan to decide if he was finished. He smiled like he had just won something. "Pick up your mess and get out of my sight." 10 minutes later, Tommy Reed pushed through the door of the Cotton Club, walked straight to Bumpy's table in the back. Bumpy sat under the single bulb that made shadows deeper than they should be, glass of whiskey in front of him, newspaper spread flat. Tommy stopped 3 feet away, breathing hard. "We got a problem." Bumpy did not look up from his paper. "I am reading." Tommy swallowed. "It is about Mabel." Now Bumpy looked up, face carved from stone. "What about Mabel?" Tommy's hands flexed at his sides. "Cop slapped her. West 126th. In front of everybody. Split her groceries all over the sidewalk and made her pick them up." Bumpy folded the newspaper once, set it aside. His jaw worked like he was chewing glass. "What precinct?" Tommy said. 28th. White cop, maybe 30, been working Harlem about 6 years. Name is Patrick Callahan. Bumpy pulled out a small notebook, wrote the name in block letters. "Who saw it?" "Everybody," Tommy said. "The barber, the domino crew, Miss Sarah and her daughter. Maybe 30 people total, could be more." Bumpy closed the notebook, put it back in his jacket, picked up his whiskey, drank it slow, set the glass down soft like it might break. 72 hours. Tommy nodded once. He understood. Not a threat. A schedule. Bumpy stood, buttoned his jacket. "Find Ray. Tell him I need names of every cop in the 28th who owes money, owes favors, owes anything to anyone. I need to know who Callahan drinks with, who he talks to, who covers his shifts when he calls in sick. I want his routine written down by midnight." "You want us to grab him?" Tommy asked. Bumpy shook his head. "No, nobody touches him. Nobody threatens him. Nobody even looks at him wrong. This does not get solved with a baseball bat in an alley. This gets solved different." Tommy frowned. How different? Bumpy walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. "You ever watch a building collapse? It does not happen all at once. First a crack appears, then another. Then the foundation shifts. Then one day the whole thing comes down, and everyone acts surprised, but the building was finished long before anyone noticed. That is how this works. We do not hit him. We just stop holding him up." By 6 that evening, the story had traveled through every barbershop, every numbers joint, every after-hours club in Harlem. People who were not there repeated it like they had seen it themselves. The details got sharper with each telling. The slap got louder. The silence afterward got longer. And everyone who heard it understood what came next without needing to be told. At a card game in a basement on Lenox Avenue, a police sergeant named Murphy, who supplemented his salary running protection for the numbers, asked if Bumpy was going to retaliate. The dealer, a man named Clarence, who had known Bumpy since they were both 15, dealt the next hand without looking up. Bumpy does not retaliate. He educates. 3 days from now, Callahan is going to learn something they do not teach at the academy. Murphy shifted in his chair. What exactly is going to happen to Callahan? Clarence picked up his cards, arranged them in his hand. Nothing you can write a report about. Nothing you can arrest anyone for. Just a series of unfortunate coincidences that will make Callahan wish he had kept his hands to himself. Murphy did not ask again. Some questions were better left alone. In a speakeasy on 133rd Street, 2 beat cops named Jackson and Torres sat at the bar, nursing beers they had not paid for. The bartender, a woman named Delilah, who ran numbers out of the back room, leaned against the counter and said, "You boys heard what happened to Mabel Johnson this afternoon?" Jackson nodded. "Yeah, we heard. Callahan is an idiot." Delilah wiped down the bar with a rag that smelled like bleach. An idiot with a badge is still dangerous. Torres drank his beer, set the glass down. What is Bumpy going to do about it? Delilah smiled without warmth. Whatever it is, you two better make sure you are nowhere near Callahan when it happens. Bumpy does not forget faces, and he sure as hell does not forget who stood by and watched his sister get humiliated. Jackson's face went pale. We were not there. We were nowhere near 126th this afternoon. Delilah nodded slowly. Good. Keep it that way for the next few days. Tell your friends in the precinct to do the same. Callahan made his bed. Let him lie in it alone. At midnight, Ray showed up at Bumpy's apartment with a folder full of paper. Bumpy sat at his kitchen table with a map of Harlem, spread out pins marking locations, red thread connecting them. Ray dropped the folder on the table. Everything you asked for. Callahan drinks at a bar called Sullivan's in the Bronx. He has a girlfriend in Queens he sees on Thursdays. He owes money to 3 different bookies, total about $800. And he is hated by every cop in his precinct because he runs his mouth and causes problems. Bumpy opened the folder, read through the pages. Who covers for him? Ray pointed to a name. Sergeant named O'Brien. They came up through the academy together. O'Brien gets him out of trouble when Internal Affairs starts asking questions. Bumpy wrote O'Brien's name in his notebook. O'Brien owe anyone money, Ray grinned. His kid goes to a private school in Manhattan. Tuition is more than his salary. He has been skimming off evidence room seizures for 3 years to pay for it. Bumpy closed the folder. Good. We start there. Tomorrow morning, someone files a complaint with Internal Affairs about missing evidence. Anonymous, detailed, impossible to ignore. That puts heat on O'Brien, Ray said. Bumpy nodded, which means O'Brien cannot help Callahan, which means when things start going wrong for Callahan, he has nobody watching his back. Then we move to the next piece. Ray asked, What is the next piece? Bumpy walked to the window, looked out at Harlem, stretching dark and quiet under streetlights that barely worked. The next piece is we stop cooperating. Every witness to a crime goes blind. Every informant goes deaf. Every file gets lost. Every phone call takes 3 times longer to answer. We do not attack the police. We just stop making their job possible. And when Callahan realizes nobody will help him, when he realizes he is alone in a neighborhood that wants him gone, that is when we move to the final step. Which is? Ray asked. Bumpy turned from the window. His face was calm, but his eyes were the eyes of a man who had decided someone needed to suffer and was working out the details. Which is, we let him understand that some mistakes cost more than an apology can fix. 72 hours. By Friday afternoon, Patrick Callahan will be begging his captain to transfer him out of Harlem. And if he is smart, his captain will say yes. August 18th, 1938. Harlem woke up and decided the police could go fuck themselves for the next 3 days. Nobody announced it. Nobody needed to. When a cop slaps Bumpy Johnson's sister in front of 30 witnesses, the entire neighborhood understands that cooperation is now a luxury the NYPD no longer gets to enjoy. At 7 in the morning, 2 cops responded to a burglary at Levy's pawn shop on Lenox Avenue. Usually, Levy had descriptions ready, sometimes even names. This time, he stood behind his counter and said, "I did not see shit." The younger cop looked up from his notepad. "Mr. Levy, you called it in 30 minutes ago. You told dispatch the guy wore a red jacket." Levy shrugged. "I was wrong. The light was bad. Could have been anybody. Could have been nobody. Maybe I dreamed the whole goddamn thing." The cop stared at him. "You are changing your story." Levy met his eyes. "I am correcting my mistake. Now get the fuck out of my shop. I have work to do." By noon, 6 more calls came in. A stabbing on 133rd where 8 people watched a man gut another man with a kitchen knife, and all 8 suddenly could not remember a goddamn thing. A shooting outside a speakeasy where the victim took 2 bullets to the chest and told the cops he shot himself cleaning his gun. A rape behind a grocery store where the woman looked the officers in the eye and said, "Nobody touched me. I fell down some stairs. Now leave me alone." Sergeant Murphy sat in the precinct break room drinking coffee that tasted like somebody boiled a boot in dirty water. Callahan walked in, poured himself a cup. Murphy did not look at him. Callahan noticed. "Something crawl up your ass." "Sarge," Murphy kept staring at the wall. "You slap anyone interesting yesterday. Anyone whose brother might run half of Harlem." Callahan laughed, the sound of a man too stupid to understand he's already dead. "That Johnson girl, she needed to learn some respect. I taught her. End of fucking story." Murphy set down his cup. "No, you dumb son of a bitch. That was the beginning. The end comes Friday, and when it does, you are going to wish you kept your hands to yourself." "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Callahan's smile died. Murphy stood, walked to the door. "It means Harlem just shut down."